he spots Lorelai doing some of the worst torture he's ever seen in his life. He can't even believe they started doing this to her an hour into her being there. I mean, how could they do it?
You immediately deserve torture.
Do you want to know what the torture was?
Tickle fight.
Peeling a large pile of potatoes. Hello.
Hi, welcome on over. This is Say Smut.
Say Smut. Welcome to Say Smut, a literary podcast for readers and non-readers.
That is Sarah. She loves books.
And that is Hope. She thankfully likes to talk to me about books. Each episode, I break down the plots of some pretty wild books books to Hope. Oh my gosh, I said this way too fast.
Who am I?
Sarah, break down the plots of some pretty wild smut books to Hope, who, guess what, hasn't read them. So if you came to this podcast, you're like, I haven't read this book. Guess what? You're in for a treat. Yeah, you're in for a treat because Hope hasn't read it. You're not. It's like when you show up to book club and like you find out somebody else hasn't read it and you're like, whoo, thank God, you know. I am in
a book club where the rule is exclusively that you don't have to have read the book. You can just come and sit there and listen to everybody talk about it and be like, wow, that sounds like a book. But I want you, the world, to know that I have been reading the books. So,
yeah, you've been good about your book club.
I have been.
I will say that is kind of what we do here, though. I mean, that we are a book club. I like to think we're a book club.
Sarah talks about it, and then I'm like, that's a book.
That's a book. And guess
5
what?
Out of 5 stars.
We are a club, and you're in the club just for listening today. Hey. If you want to stay with the club, you should subscribe and rate us on the podcast platform of your choosing. But our listeners have had the honor and privilege of hearing or reading the title of our book, which is, are you ready for it?
I'm so ready.
Her Alien Priest by Michele Mills.
Okay.
I thought I was going to get a bigger reaction out of you for that one.
I'm trying to think of what's appropriate to say. Fun Easter week pick.
Yeah. There is a deviled eggs book I wanted to bring in, but it is by Holly Wilde, who did the Birthday Bear book, and I was like, no, we need to space these out. You know what I mean?
I understand.
So in the near future, maybe a year from now, we'll do that. So content warnings. We do have some family emotional abuse that I'll be referencing, sex shaming, pregnancy, and religious trauma. Okay. I'm
gonna leave for this episode and come in. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. This is pushing a boundary for me, Hope.
That said, Hope's gonna dip out for this episode of the podcast, and then she's gonna come back for the next episode.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna speak to myself.
And Sarah's gonna read my research.
If it makes you feel, if anybody feels better, the religious stuff is all not a real religion. Okay?
Good.
So it's not like this is about Catholicism, you know, like we're not getting into like what we know religion to be.
Right.
I will say on Storygraph, it has a 3.5, but on Goodreads, it has a 4.07. So high marks. This is Michele Williams. Oh my gosh.
Her best book.
Her best book yet. Michele Mills. It's the first book in a series that currently has 7 books. I will tell you that you're gonna see the cover later, and they each have a focal point item, and I'm very intrigued because the 7th book is called Her Alien Husband, and it just has a cat on the cover.
Well, that might be her alien husband. I know that cats are aliens.
I know, so I'm like, yeah. Like, okay, so some of the other titles in this series: Her Alien Ghost. Her Alien Angel, Her Alien Ex-Con, Her Alien Bully, Her Alien Stepbrother, and Her Alien Husband.
Not Her Alien Stepbrother.
No. That is actually a porn category.
It's also
you know like that it is
like a smut book ripoff of the Disney Channel movie Stepsister from Planet Weird.
Oh yeah, I was thinking. Remember My Life with Derek on Disney, and how like that creepy they made that. Like
some would say the first step sibling porn.
Yes, precisely. Okay. A little about Michelle. Michelle lives in California and leads a life of quiet, G-rated desperation with her husband and 2 sons in an attempt at a fulfilling R-rated inner life that does not include Disney movies and Nickelodeon. Michelle reads and writes filthy romance and, well, filthy romance.
Hell
And
yeah.
she wouldn't have it any other way. I'm sure
Great.
a lot of people feel that way, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine the day I have kids and I am only doing G-rated stuff and like listening to Baby Shark over and over again. And I'm like, I need to have some adult. I need to like touch grass, whatever the grass version of adulthood is. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Read a real book.
Yeah. Maybe I'm already doing that by reading Smut. Who knows?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm prepping myself. Okay. Are you ready to dive in to this insane book?
Yes, please.
Okay. It is a 70-page book, so we've got a lot more girth to that plot. And I will say I was pleasantly surprised by this, Michelle. I was pleasantly surprised, other than I'll talk about it later, but the cover did not entice me. But the title obviously does. So
yes,
let's put you in the situation to lead into our mega plot we've got here. Imagine you're a young woman living at home with your family. Okay?
It's so hard to imagine that I'm a young woman, but I'm going to do my best.
Also, I'm going to be ambiguous in what young is because I have no clue what our female main character's age is.
Not my age. I'll have to imagine.
Yeah, well, we know you're practically decrepit. You and I are decrepit in the standards of historical romance. So
fully falling apart.
How embarrassing would it be to be discovered by your mother masturbating in a closet under the stairs?
That's a worst case scenario. Really a worst case scenario for me.
Really an X-rated version of some Harry Potter like role playing, it feels like. Well, this is where it all went wrong for our main character, Lorelai. So you might be asking, Sarah, how did we get here? I will happily tell you. Lorelai is a human who lives on the planet New Earth.
Oh.
Yeah. Also, in the theme of religious trauma, when I was young and I found out that, you know, like when the rapture happens or whatever, you know, where like God is going to make another Earth essentially. And then like, I always thought it'd be called New Earth. So like this felt like
I don't think I learned that there was going to be a second Earth.
So
I don't think that was part of my upbringing.
Well, you were also Catholic. So,
true.
But in my Protestantism, they taught us that like God would come down to Earth.
Yeah.
Make like a heaven on earth and then to go create a new Earth. And so I always was like, that's going to be New Earth. So this felt very full circle for me. Sure. But also I was like, me and my little philosophical smut brain. No, I'm kidding. But me and my brain was like, wow, I promise I speak English. I thought to myself, who's to say that we are also not a new Earth? If God's been just hopping Earths.
Yeah.
Who's to say we're not like 67th?
What if there's even older Earth than this?
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
This is sorry. I'm now changing this into a philosophical podcast, but we are on New Earth with Lorelai. Yes. She lives in a commune with her family and her community. Her father is the priest of a religion that we don't ever get a name for the religion, but has a multi-gods concept to it. And that's what
they're always say. Like, oh my gods in the book.
Yeah, probably if they swore and stuff like that. But they call them the multi-gods. That's how they refer to them. So it's not what we would recognize as any religion, but the way that her family and commune and her father practices this religion is very, very, very sexist. Okay. Ooh. It's women stay in the kitchen, women stay quiet, women have to be virginal purists, like men have to be the leaders. You know what I mean? You're getting it?
Yeah,
it's all that.
I'm getting it. It's so different from the real world.
It's so crazy. Well, Lorelai is kind of the black sheep of the family. And her family lets her know that, right? Like, first of all, she's kind of outspoken. Not to mention, she reads these romance books from her people's home planet that have these like titillating scenes that she could never
Original
imagine.
Earth.
Yeah. The OG. Second, she's plus size and she's not physically appealing, according to others who live with her.
Cool. Hey, cool.
Third, she's always daydreaming. She's always thinking about things, always kind of lost in her thoughts. And I know what you're asking, Sarah. What is she daydreaming about? It's sex.
I'm going to be honest. I assumed that it was probably sex.
Big old horn dog, right? So, I mean, she is Pornhub is just role playing in her mind over and over again. But she's turned on and she can't figure out a way to express it. So one day she hides in her secret place under the stairs, which is apparently not that secret. She's under the stairs, masturbating.
The one only she and her mom know about.
Yeah. And her mom finds her. Obviously, her mom finds it absolutely disgusting. Her dad, being the priest, is like, can't even look at you. Straight and they don't even say goodbye to her when they send her away. Okay. So you asked me, Sarah, stop teasing and bearing the lead. Where do they send her away to? And I can't wait to tell you, because this is where our story truly begins. Okay. She gets sent away to a convent, where she just thinks, I'm going to go shrivel up and die, I guess, and be around all these women who are probably going to judge me 20 times worse than my family did. But the problem is, when these weird military soldiers come up to I don't know, kidnap her and bring her to this planet. I think she's in a whole nother planet at this point. It's not very clear. It's not very clear if Salo is a city or a planet or what it is. It's a location.
It's an area.
It's the second location they bring her as the victim. Okay. And so these military soldiers who are kind of dumb and dumber, deliver her to the quote unquote convent that she was supposed to go to. Not the right place. They deliver her to the wrong place. So Salo has a monastery monastery.
They are making money there.
It's actually a money launderer. And
it's a money laundering scheme.
Some could say that is religion. No, I'm kidding. No. So the monastery that they bring her to houses a single priest. And when he comes out to the front steps to look at her, see what this commotion is about, because he's just on his own living in this decrepit old monastery.
In the monastery of one.
Yes.
Teaching himself.
Yes. She sees him and she screams. And then she's like, nope, that wasn't cool. I'm so sorry.
Good reaction to yourself.
That's because the monk is a very unique kind of alien called a Hyrokin. That's how I'm going to pronounce it.
Sure.
Imagine him to look like the caricatures of the devil. Okay. So red, hairless, 2 horns, barbed tail, can breathe fire. Think of every 1960s caricature of a devil you've seen.
Sure.
Okay. Sure. He's very hot on his home planet, we find out later, but
a home planet 10.
Yeah, a home planet. I think it's something with a T, I think. Anyway, Travaos, something. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
10, but a Salo 6.
Yes, for sure. He's everyone's really scared of him here. But this is Cabal Firestone. I'm gonna say his name is Cable. We'll go with Cable.
Let's go with Cable. It's easier to say.
Cabal. Cable. I'm just going to say that. Cabal?
No, it's probably not Cabal.
I don't care. I'm going to say Cable. So he is the high priest of Westmore Monastery. Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's what you need to know about Cable. Okay. Yeah. He was in the military up until 5 years ago when there was an incident that blew off his leg, and now he has a prosthetic. But it's not like a metal one, you would think. It's hyper realistic where your skin grows over the machinery of it. So people wouldn't typically notice it right away. We got to have that futuristic technology. He joined the clergy after he left the service. And again, when they refer to the military service, it's the intergalactic, blah, 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 blah.
Sure,
right?
Sure. Yeah. The interplanetary.
Yeah. For sure. So they gave him when he joined the clergy, they gave him Westmore, which is falling apart. And I'll get into a little bit why it's falling apart and why no one cares about it in the large scheme of things, but a little later. But he decides to take a vow of celibacy and silence to convince the cardinal of this religion that he is so dedicated, and if he can do it for 5 years, if he can do this vow for 5 years, they will help fund a restoration of Westmore. This is a big deal because no nun or priest has attempted both of these vows concurrently since the time of the Great Expansion. I have no historical reference of what the Great Expansion was, but it feels like a long time ago.
We all remember the Great Expansion. We all remember.
He is currently 4 years into his 5-year commitment. Okay.
What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
Would you like to share your research with me, please?
Yeah, it's called
and then you just sit here silently.
Yeah, it's just
for 5 minutes.
Insert mute emoji here. Thank you so much to Wikipedia's extensive research on types of monastic silence, and for being inclusive on all different types of silence. Thank you for Romana Matseri from Medium, Project Muse for access to Buddhist and Catholic monks talk about celibacy by Father Ryan Thomas, and EnglishHeritage.org, which is a charity that oversees like historical sites and items. Thanks to all of them for all my research.
Oh, beautiful.
Now, why is monastic silence practiced in
I don't
various
like the word
religions?
monastic. I'm just going to say that right now.
That's too bad because I'm going to say it probably a few more times in the
Not
podcast.
Me pulling out my headphones.
She's
Right,
absolutely
she's that as a
so sick of hearing me say monastic. She ripped her headphone cord out. She was like, I'm done.
I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm actually going to take a L on this one and leave, and you can do the podcast without me.
Great. Speaking of taking an L, I would be a really bad monk. I do meditate pretty regularly, and I have for quite a while, but as stated at the top of every episode of this podcast that we've ever done, I simply love talking too much. Yeah. And also it's a smut book podcast, so like do the math.
Yeah.
Anyway, this week Sarah asked me to do a little dive into why monks take vows of silence and celibacy. The good news is that in my research, I learned that the idea that monks are completely silent, we're going to start with silence, is not entirely accurate because it's not practical. Like, we hear about taking vows of silence, and I guess this is just a thing we guess in our heads. It's like, it must mean you may never talk ever. But if you were to go to a monastery, there are going to be times where you're being taught and you can't really teach in silence. So sometimes it's like there's designated times that you talk, and sometimes it's like, I don't know, in certain spaces you don't talk, but it's not typically like you don't ever talk ever. I'm just going to like get that off the top.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. In reality, monks of all kinds generally cultivate extended periods of silence for contemplation and meditation, for prayer, what have you. And then the extent to which they do it varies by practice. And at the core, taking up silence is like, I would say, a pretty long held desire to clear away distractions, like across the board religiously, and to be able to focus on a life of religious service. So like, it's pretty much the same with celibacy. Like, it's an earthly distraction to be talking so much. It's an earthly distraction to have, relationships with people on earth. It's easier to focus on what insert religious deity wants if you are more reflective and contemplative and quiet and internal. And if you shut out those distractions, that's like pretty much the core of all of it. But for example, silence among Christian monks stretches back to like the 3rd century, when religious hermits would live out in solitude to escape distractions. See, like talking and physical relationships and stuff. There was a rule written by Saint Benedict that states that, quote, monks should diligently cultivate silence at all times. But like, again, if you're gonna like teach the wording of God, you can't really. Doesn't really work to be silent literally all the time. I did read that some monks can use a kind of a sign language to communicate now and again, but again, it is pretty unavoidable when you're teaching a group of people religious ideologies and practices to not talk. So like, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some amount of talking. And it's more so that like any sort of silence being observed is, you know, in general, lifestyle to like focus in on whatever it is that your practice is, and also like sometimes more limited to specific spaces or specific circumstances, not necessarily all the time. Celibacy is a little bit different because I think most organizations that practice celibacy do it all the time and not like in celibacy in certain
fuck
spaces.
This one day. You could fuck if you're in a brothel. You could fuck
once a week. You go to the fuck room.
Yeah. You
and
just
then we
have one
fuck
BDSM room
in any of the other rooms.
Oh my God.
But the intent between that and like a vow of silence is really similar, to separate yourself from distraction that pulls you away from faith practices or your greater purpose or whatever. I learned more about this in Romana Matseri's Medium article, which is called "The Story of Why an Ordinary Man Became a Buddhist Monk," in which Matseri interviewed a man named David Marks, who is from Australia, and he became a Buddhist monk at 26 and remained one for like 30 years. In the article, Matseri wrote, quote, regarding sexual relationships, monks and nuns living separately in the monastery and not having sexual relationships is primarily because engagement with the sensory world can make the mind more distracted. Pretty much what I was saying before. Mm-hmm. There was in let me go to let me quote my other source. That's the first one, but I want to get the second quote right. I read an article as well, written by Father Thomas Ryan, that was called "Buddhists and Catholic Monks Talk About Celibacy," and it was like a group of monks and a group of priests just sat and kind of talked about how and why they practice celibacy and stuff like that. In the article that I read, it said that Buddhist participants explained that their teaching focus on seeing how suffering is created and cured. Attachments, like earthly attachments, give rise to suffering. So advancement in the spiritual life requires letting go of one's attachments. Attachment to desire, among which are sexual desires, is a hindrance to spiritual progress. And then one of the Buddhist reverends had said, like, raging desire takes away choice and freedom, because the senses must be you're focused on that so much. So if you are able to control your senses, you can be more free. Mm-hmm. And then one of the Catholic participants in this same article from a monastery in Indiana had spoke about how the monastic life makes you, if you're going to be involved in it, you kind of have to accept a life of solitude, so that you can sit and reflect. And it says, or he had said, celibacy is not a tool, or celibacy is a tool. A skillful means like intentional simplicity of life by which our hearts is burrowed out and the core of our being is laid bare. By embracing it, the monk accepts the aloneness that characterizes every human being. And so in that way, he was just kind of like, inherently, if you're going to become a monk of some kind, this will probably be a life you're spending a lot of time alone and in contemplation, or like, because you're going to give up relationships and limit communication, and things are going to be, I don't know, like a little more removed from the everyday world. You kind of have to accept that you're going to be alone. So being celibate kind of helps you. I don't know. But it's mostly just like that's distracting. So don't do it because it's distracting.
Yeah. Interesting. I think
that couldn't be us.
Would it be distracting though to have the natural urges too, though, and not acting upon them? I feel like that would be hard for a lot of people too, because I feel like not having something would almost become a hyperfixation, right?
In some of our readings, they talked about how I think they in groups will workshop like it sounded like a lot of stuff that I hear about in meditation as it pertains to like controlling thinking, where thoughts arise in the mind, but you have to acknowledge, accept them, and let them go. So I think that it's sort of a similar process where like it's not that being celibate means you'll never ever have those urges, but you will, instead of doing anything about it, like acknowledge that they're there and let them go.
Interesting. Did you come across anything about people doing it out of like what our main character is doing it
To get funding for a
no,
revamp of the church? Not
no, but
entirely.
as a showing of like dedication, as a showing of like strength and dedication.
I mean, I feel like that's a general sentiment around
Yeah.
it in general. Most of the things I read focused more about how, there's a need to give away and sacrifice like all kind of earthly, distractions and possessions and stuff if you're going to live more often than not in a life of faith, pretty much exclusively all about faith. So like, yeah, in that it shows your dedication to whatever that religion is, but no, in that it's more of a greater part of giving away earthly distractions so you can focus up on what's up there.
What's up there?
What's even up there?
Is this your research?
This is my research.
Thank you very, very much. I was hoping you were going to tell me like the longest somebody's gone without speaking or something crazy.
No,
like
but if you had asked me to Google it, I'm sure Guinness would have. I will Google
I'm
the
sure.
longest someone's been quiet.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's step into a little bit more about how Cable feels about this situation. So what you need to know is that as soon as he smells Lorelai's pheromones on the front steps of this monastery, he is smitten as a kitten.
Wow.
I mean, it'll be later noted that Hirokan men find human females irresistible, and Cable had never met a human woman until today. And now he's like, I get it.
I shouldn't be a monk or whatever.
Yeah, like this is
if I had met one before, I definitely wouldn't have made this career choice.
No, I didn't have my eyes fully open to the experience. But these soldiers are really disrespectful to Lorelai as she's trying to explain the mix-up because they don't believe her. But Cable like doesn't like that they're being disrespectful to her, so like he kind of scares them off by breathing fire onto them and lighting their hair on fire.
Well, that's tricky as well.
Yeah. And the guys are like, you can't do that. He was like, I can do whatever I damn well please. So once it's just the two of them, she realizes he's this priest who took a vow of celibacy and silence, but she doesn't know exactly why. And, they're doing that weird thing of like, she asks questions until she gets the right answer and he like nods or like he can do like small gestures, but he can't like write anything down or do anything.
Sure.
So anyway, he shows her around the monastery, from the great library, which is obviously going to be both of their favorite places to be, to her bedroom, which is right next to his, even though they have this whole ass monastery to themselves.
I can't help how the monastery was built. The rooms are right next to each other.
Yeah.
You can't sleep anywhere else.
Even though there's a whole nother wing for nuns, she's got to be right there. He's also holding her hand the entire time. Like normal. The entire time. And like he sits right next to her, like doesn't let her sit across from him, like right next to her. It's like no chill, right? It's very obvious. So it's interesting because also this monastery is very old school for such a modern planet. But Lorelai is used to that because everything was pretty rudimentary at her commune. Yeah. Okay, so like they grew their own vegetables and stuff. Like they didn't have I don't know what she calls it, but something that immediately shows up with food. Like they don't have the modern technology. Right. So she actually conforms pretty well to this monastery life. I will also note that they do not have any modern conveniences like, I don't know, running water. But they do have an
pros and cons.
They do have an aqueduct for water running under the potty seat. So nice.
Hey,
luxuries where you can get them.
It's not nothing.
Yeah. Also, as he's feeding her dinner, I will note that he's like admiring her curves and he's like thinking to himself, like, I better get more bread and sweets because I don't want her to get small. And so like, we love a plus size queen who's admired by obviously this hunk of a man, very, body positive. Meanwhile, she's also very attracted to him. And the more she gets used to his like calming presence, like she's really getting into him and being like this hulky guy, right?
Great.
As she says, Quote, I've known him all of 60 minutes and I'm putty in his giant claws.
Took absolutely no time.
No time.
No time.
But even though she's such a sexual deviant, she will not let him stray from this religious path because her job as a trainee nun is to, like, I think that's how she refers to herself too, by the way.
Trainee nun.
Yeah, they call her a trainee.
It's the official terminology.
Yeah, she is there to support his vows. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So over their first dinner, she confesses to him the ultimate crime that she committed to be here.
Jorking it in the closet and her mom found her.
Yes. And obviously he's a progressive thinker, and internally he acknowledges to the audience how archaic this form is for her dad and mom to think this way about it. And also,
and externally he shrugged because he can't talk.
Yeah. Actually, I think he bangs his fist on the table with no other inclination.
Alarming.
Yeah. But also he makes it clear that that's not how most people view the religion. Like most people are.
I would specifically like to know how he made this clear.
Well, he didn't. He's telling this to the audience.
Okay.
That he's like, clearly she has a messed up view of our religion because actually our multi-gods believe that everyone is created equal. Like everyone, like men are not better than women, all these things, right? And so he feels disappointed that she's been raised this way with a religion that he obviously cares about. There's also a bunch of other things regarding this religion that is not common for priests and nuns that we know. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. I'm suspending all my disbelief. I'm forgetting every priest or nun I've ever met.
Forget any stereotype or social construct we have around religious institutions.
This is aliens.
Mm-hmm. So this is where we get this beautiful montage of them doing things together around the monastery. And I have to imagine it's kind of like the Beauty and the Beast sequence.
I was just going to say, like in Beauty and the Beast,
yes,
they're feeding birds, they're eating porridge, they're reading books.
Yeah, more like they're doing chores, they're praying, they're eating.
Equally as romantic.
They're transcribing texts. It's very, very cute.
Think there's something there that wasn't there before.
No, the copyright. You're just so good at singing
it. A new feeling that is different than the feeling that was previously there.
Okay, I'm not taking up Disney on this one. Okay,
that one was different, and I would argue better.
Okay. Okay, so she also, I want to point out, just for the sake of getting an atmosphere check. She points out that he is like the first man, that came into the kitchen with her. And she starts acknowledging that, quote, it's never good for anyone to be stuck in gender or species defining roles that aren't good for their personality or skill type. Right. So and I'm like, yes, girl, get rid of those social constructs that your family and commune drilled into you.
No one needs those social constructs. Mm-mm. Throw them away.
I should also note that with all their primitive conditions, they also don't have any indoor shower or bath. They have an outdoor bathing stall, which coincidentally only their 2 rooms can see into from the courtyard.
Makes sense.
So you can imagine that it's like, remember as if it was so long ago when we watched The Bachelor and there was always that scene of him showering. There's always a scene of him. That is happening every morning for this poor girl. She's got her face pressed against the glass and she's like drooling over his like barbed tail and his toned red body, all those things. Okay. Fair enough. He's doing the same thing. Let's be honest. When she's down there, he's also a little peeping Tom. But unfortunately, Cable, he can't even jerk off. Very sad.
So sad that he can't even jerk off.
But they're both having very sexy thoughts about one another, sexy dreams about one another. It's a lot. So let's take a step into Cable's mind for a second. He's completely taken with Lorelai, and he's not being subtle about these little hard eyes he has. Internally, he starts dreaming about a future with her, okay? So he knows that it's likely that somebody will realize their mistake and come and get her. But he thinks if she can wait 1 year for him, he will marry her and she will become Lorelai Firestone, the nun of Westmore. And they can, co-manage the monastery together. So in this world.
It's a different world.
Yes, they can get married, they can have children. That is not.
They just cannot jork it in a stair closet, or their mom will find them and send them away. It's the only thing you can. There's like one rule.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah. So for some reason, he also can't block the transfers because that would require him speaking. And I don't know why like, if people come for her, I don't know why he wouldn't just like blow a little fire and be like, nah, she's not leaving.
Oh, I forgot he blows fire.
Yeah. Is that going to change your drawing?
No, I just forgot that he blows fire.
Well, I'm surprised you did. There's a lot to keep up with here.
There is a lot to keep up with.
So, and trust me, it's not going to stop. So he also acknowledges that she is his future bound, which I think just means like wife in his life. No, it's not mate, because they use the term mate later on kind of religiously. But I think it's meant to be like bound as in like, that's my wife. Like,
sure.
That's what I think. To paint this picture,
Fiance,
he says,
maybe. Fiance, maybe.
I don't think so. I don't think so, because they give like declarations to each other later, and he uses the term bound and she uses the term husband. So that's why I think it's
sure.
Okay. So he says, quote, nuns are highly sought after life mates, and a human, I would have to beat the other proposals off with my staff. Some other male will identify her perfection, and before I can return, swoop down to place his claim on what is mine. So he's like, look, somebody else is also gonna, like, she's been told that she's not desirable by her little commune family. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is she has a lot of things going for her on top of obviously her inner and outer beauty. Yeah. But like, she's a human. Humans are very appealing.
Hot commodity.
Yeah. And a nun. Blah, blah, blah.
And a nun.
So here's another tidbit about the monastery. Each of the religious locations that are in Salo, which the monastery is one, is a part of a pilgrimage that was created from one of the great religious historical figures. And so like one of these multi-gods founded each of these places.
Right.
Even though Westmore is on the pilgrimage, no one can track who founded it, which is why it's kind of been left for dead. Like everyone's like, well, we don't really understand why it's so significant. We can't trail it back to some specific religious deity. So that's why we've kind of left it to rot. So that is why he's trying to prove the significance to the cardinal, because they have no historical texts to link it to anybody.
He's like, I promise it's important.
I promise it's so important. Also, this is not important to the main storyline, but I will mention that apparently Cable's father was the ex-president of his planet and is now in prison for selling government secrets. Okay. And that's a part of why he went into the military. That's a part of why he like left his planet and went and joined the monastery, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
Okay. It is also revealed during one of these scenes when they're transcribing text that she has a universal translator that was implanted in her head.
Thank God.
Yes,
don't worry about that.
Convenient. Yes.
Don't worry about it.
And in case you're wondering, because he has a prosthetic and it does bother him sometimes, there is definitely a sensual scene where she massages his prosthetic area.
Yeah.
And it's too tempting for him, so he has to storm out of the room. But she verbally reminds herself that she will not defile the high priest. She cannot defile him.
No.
Okay. Then they get their first round of pilgrims.
Yay!
Very exciting.
Nothing bad ever happens when pilgrims come.
Actually, they're not really that big of a problem. It's very popular for people to take these tours. But again, this specific monastery is off the beaten path, so they don't often get people. Also, people refer to him as like the monster of Westmore. And so like people don't think it's obviously a very welcoming place to come. So people show up, they're like, oh my gosh, the rumors about the human trainee nun are real. And she was like, it's already gotten around. And they're like, yeah, you can expect a lot more visitors now that they know that it's not just this guy out here. So anyway, what you need to know, probably more visitors are going to come. Okay. So
keep that on the back burner.
While making dinner one night, one of the pilgrims informs Lorelai of why Cable took the vow of celibacy in silence, which she never knew, right? She was like, I
This
just
guy
think
just doesn't talk to me.
he just hates me. And so she was like now feeling really guilty because he's like doing it for such a good reason. He's got 1 year left, like she's like, there's a lot of context around here.
Right.
And after the pilgrims are like getting up to leave the monastery, both Cable and Lorelai overhear the pilgrims whispering about how he's so clearly in love with her and how she's going to be the ruin of him and his goals for Westmore. And they don't mean it maliciously. I think they just are like,
Really,
oh
like,
my gosh,
he's
he
down bad.
yeah, and he was literally holding her hand under the table at dinner. Like, I mean, it's so obvious.
He does keep holding her hand places.
It's
which
so
kind
obvious.
of ruins the surprise.
So Lorelai takes this to heart and she's like, I will not be the reason that he doesn't complete his mission. And she's like, I've got to leave. I can no longer be tempting for him.
I can't keep massaging his prosthetic spot.
Yeah.
I can't keep doing that.
No, and it
might be inappropriate.
I can't keep taking showers where he can see, and I can't not take a shower, so I for sure gotta go.
And I can't stop staring at him when he takes a shower.
Yeah.
So I should probably just leave.
So she writes a little note, leaves it on her pillow, and flees into the stormy night. Okay?
Sad.
This is where things are going to get really crazy until the very end. Are you ready? Are you buckled? Okay.
Buckled.
All right. Meanwhile, Cable is so caught up in his feelings to figure out how he can like have it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, how can I like, get through the next year and like make sure maybe I can figure out something in the meantime that will convince them to invest in the monastery without me completing the full 5 years, blah, blah, blah. He's messing around in the library when he sees this latch he's never spotted before.
Oh.
And it opens a small compartment where he finds a cache of antiques dating back to the patron god of Westmore. So he's found it.
The secrets,
right?
Yeah.
Yes, these are
the history.
The secrets that he needs to know. And he's like, this is the answer to my prayers. I can show this to the cardinal, end my vow early, and come back and be with Lorelai.
Ooh, what could possibly go wrong?
He rushes to go tell Lorelai, but finds the note on her bed that stated, she's left.
You got to be quiet forever, and I can't ruin your dreams.
Yeah. He, for some reason unknown to everybody involved, rips off his robe and is only in a loincloth and decides to run into the night after her. I know what you're thinking. Sarah, oh my God, how would he even find her? Well, don't worry. He can run super fast and he has night vision. So he finds Lorelai within an hour, okay? Under a tree.
I'm glad I don't have to worry about it.
He finds her under a tree and he's like, he doesn't say anything to her. He just is like, you're coming back, subtly tells her like,
this is the scene in Beauty and the Beast where Belle tries to run away and then she gets attacked by the wolf, so the beast has to save her and he gets hurt, so he's like mad at her for leaving, and there's this whole thing.
The difference is he doesn't speak and no one gets hurt. She just gets a piggy ride back to the monastery, which is fun.
A silent piggy ride back to the monastery.
If you recall one of our other Alien books, there was also multiple piggyback scenes. So
we love a piggyback scene.
That was Ice Planet Barbarians, if anybody wants to know. So as soon as they get to the monastery, it is Pound Town time.
Wow.
She, of course, tries to resist. Yes, he is. She, of course, tries to resist at first because she doesn't know. He has not spoken still.
Right. Because vows. I mean, he hasn't given that evidence yet.
Yeah. And he has not told her anything about how it's going to be okay. He's going to, she just like resists a little bit. And then he's like, puts her up on the altar and she's like, never mind, you can take me. So they're like throwing the bowls and the cups that are ancient and like they're spilling off of the altar and she's on there. He goes down on her with
incredibly sacrilegious immediately.
Yes. He goes down on her with that forked tongue of his and he gets her one orgasm because he knows it's going to be difficult to bang her with his huge alien penis. But as he says, quote, humans are small and frail, but I know she can withstand my Hyrocan lust.
I don't know if she can withstand the Hyrrocan lust, but I guess we're gonna find out.
We also have to remember that she is a virgin. So even though the Hyrrocan females consider him large, so like she's got a lot going against her in this situation. He does such a thorough job of making sure that she is prepped and ready, though. And when he finally enters her, she's using his horns like handlebars. It's go time.
We love a horns to handlebars.
Yeah, it is.
We love a
horns to handlebars.
Especially if in some scenarios the horns are a little bit sensitive.
Oh, let me just tell you about that tail. So in case you were wondering, they do refer to her vagina as a channel.
Sure.
Yep.
It's a choice.
It's always a choice. And they chose wrong. Anyway. So anyway, they both find release together through penetration, but he specifically does when she reaches out and brushes his tail.
Wow.
And in case you were wondering about the sacrilegiousness of it all, he says, quote, "We are creating our offspring in front of the gods, consecrating our union."
Well, never mind then. I'm not bothered.
Yeah. They both, without saying it to each other, feel like they just got married.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? When you know, is the first thing I'm going to say. I have a question. Clarifying question. It's okay if you don't know the answer. Is this man's tail out all the time?
Yes. He curls it around her sometimes. He did have to cut a hole in his robes so that it could stick out.
Sure.
But yes, his tail is out.
So at any given time, you could touch his tail in just a way that he might blow a load in his pants.
I mean, I feel like it would be the same as like, I don't know, rubbing somebody's dick through their jeans. I feel like that's not appropriate.
Except it's not because it would be like if they had a hole in their jeans to pull their dick out from, so their dick was just always out.
That's called a zipper. What are you talking about?
No. I'm sorry.
No, I know what you're trying to do.
This is an alien creature that has a tail where they had to cut a hole out so it can stick out perpetually all the time is not the same as a fly on pants.
No, I'm just saying, remember when you suspended your disbelief? Because it's a different planet with different social constructs. Maybe this is one of them. Okay.
I think whatever.
Don't get mad. These are things that we are above our knowledge. We are the ignorant ones here.
It's not that I have something. It's not that I'm so confused about the fact that his like metaphorical tail dick is hanging out all the time. I'm honestly the most confused about how you think cutting a hole out of ropes for a tail is the same as using your fly to keep your dick out all the time.
Okay, we can have different opinions about that. What I will say though is that I think it was the thing that sent him over the edge. I don't think it was like if you brush his tail, he just automatically. But like, it could be like when somebody is giving passionate love and maybe they like scratch somebody's back and that's what like, does it over. Or like they do a certain thing that it's like, oop, that was the horniest thing you could have done. I think that was more the context. But in case you were also wondering, they do have sex everywhere that night, over and over and over again, like literally all night. And
good.
I'm keeping the sexual stuff brief, but I want you to know there was a lot of internal sexy thoughts.
Mm-hmm. He's not talking the whole time.
No, and the audience gets to hear that from him in his chapters, but we don't get it out loud. Anyway,
this poor woman, it's just so silent the whole time they're having sex all over the monastery everywhere they go. Just complete silence.
Well, no, I'm sure
rhythmic slapping.
He's like grunting and stuff. He says like, even when he gives directions, he'll give like affirmative grunts or negative grunts, like, so I'm sure he's vocalizing something, but it's not necessarily words. Don't ick someone's natural state during sex.
I'm not anything. I just imagine that for Lorelai, it's rather quiet, all things considered, and that would be tough for me personally.
Oh, well, okay. Well, sometimes we have overly vocal people in these books, and we just need to even it out sometimes. There's a little bit of everybody.
Quiet representation.
Quiet representation. So, All right. What I'm saying is I'm toning down the sexual stuff just because we have so much plot. Sure. And we are nearing the end.
I'm ready.
So next morning, Lorelai finds that Cable is gone. He left a note that only says, quote, Lorelai, I am leaving to take care of everything. Trust in me. I will return. That's all he says.
Oh, okay.
First of all, you break your vow of silence to write a note, and that's all you say? That's all you say? No, I've been dreaming about you this whole time. Last night was great. I would go down and let you ride my handlebars any day.
I know I've literally not said anything to you or communicated to you directly ever and should be using this note to tell you a lot of things. I'm simply not going to.
You already broke your vow of celibacy at this point.
And silence, because you're not supposed to be writing stuff.
But why wouldn't you talk to her at any point the night before? Between sex, during sex, as you fall asleep in each other's arms. I don't know. That's what bothered me about this was I was like, okay, you already broke your celibacy rule. Why not just talk to her? Whatever. But we wouldn't have the beautiful ending we do.
Yeah, that would be too easy.
So in case you were wondering, he was not gone for a day. He was not gone for 2 days. He was gone for a month. And during those weeks, Lorelai is taking care of everything around the monastery, including all the pilgrims that are now coming because, like, you know,
I forgot about all the pilgrims.
They're all coming now that they know that a human is there who can translate and who's not scary. Mm-hmm. And how inconvenient it is when she starts throwing up every morning.
That's it. That is, to be fair, super inconvenient.
Yep, you guessed it. She's pregnant. And so one day, some soldiers come to get her. And she's like, well, that's so too bad for you because I live here now. And they say, not anymore. And they put handcuffs on her and drag her out of the monastery in front of a bunch of pilgrims.
That's not nice.
Meanwhile, Cable comes home. And it took...
Great timing.
Great timing, Cable. Could have been like an hour or two earlier. By the way, this happens on the same day. So it's not like she's been gone for a couple days. It's like within hours. The reason it took him a month was because the cardinal decided to retire. And so they had to go through a whole like
slow paperwork process.
They had to go through a whole process to get a new cardinal. And then he had to go through those processes to get it all finished because he had to like do all these special things to like finish up his vows. Okay. Mm-hmm. And because he was just so anxious to get home to her, he rented a hovercraft to speed home to be with his girl, only to find that she wasn't there.
Da-da-da.
He does, when he's trying to find her, he does smell two trails on his bed. And he identifies as one as her, obviously, and one as his offspring. Very exciting way to find out that you're a dad.
She threw up in bed.
No, I think it's the pheromone thing that like, it's like, I can scent the DNA of two people in here. I don't know. He can just smell two things.
Stuff.
And he's like, one of those is my thing that I created with her. That's mine.
Cute.
Yeah, very cute. They're going to have a gender reveal party. It's very fun. So he runs around the monastery trying to find out where she went. And he asks the pilgrim, where did she go? And somebody like nervously coughs and is like, well, I saw some guards like take her away, which is like so convenient. But at the same time, the guy was like, don't know where they went. Thankfully, another guy...
Another more helpful guy.
Another way more helpful guy saw 3 guards take her about, I think he said an hour ago or like a couple hours ago. And thankfully, he's former military. So he memorized the vehicle code of their military vehicle and he put it into his military tablet to triangulate their military destination, which is so convenient for Cable.
Thank God that was possible.
Yeah. Turns out her location is like the worst nunnery ever in the whole world. And they're known for their torture methods.
Oh no, not the torture nunnery.
I know. So Cable and the military tablet guy rushes off to go get her.
Naturally.
And an hour later, they arrive at this frozen tundra nunnery where he spots Lorelai doing some of the worst torture he's ever seen in his life. He can't even believe they started doing this to her an hour into her being there. I mean, how could they do it?
You immediately deserve torture.
Do you want to know what the torture was?
Tickle fight.
Peeling a large pile of potatoes. Which, look, I will agree.
I will not agree.
I hate peeling potatoes.
My job is bakery. It's called prep work.
I know, but guess what? I don't like it. So I want to get to the fun part.
You can imagine. This alien man has ever seen is peeling potatoes.
Which is so funny because
you're crying and heaving and like, not another potato. I couldn't. And they're like, you gotta peel the potato.
But it's weird when she and him have like gardened together and cooked together. So it's like
invasive to their mutual love of vegetables.
Whatever. So anyway, she's only been there for like an hour, but he runs into the head bitch in charge. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going to call her. I didn't take time to know her name because we're in the last couple pages of the book.
See, baby.
The head nun is, she's like, what are you doing here? I thought you had a vow of celibacy and, silence. And he was like, I've got, those are done. I already went through all the process. And he was like, that's my bound. And head bitch in charge is like, yeah, prove it. And
she's pregnant.
And Lorelai yells in front of by the way, this is like in front of a courtyard of people. Lorelai yells her pregnancy for all to hear. And he's like, his response is, I love you. And then he goes up to her and weirdly like proposes or gives his vows to her. I'm not really sure.
Sure.
Because it kind of sounds like a proposal at the end, but it's so grandiose that I'm like, it could be an entire, like this could be the ceremony. Who knows?
Yeah, they may have just actually legally gotten married.
And she's like probably still got the peeler and one half peeled potato in her hand. And she's like, I love you too.
Heinous and grotesque torture one could possibly face.
And through it all, they give these beautiful vows to each other. Unclear. Mm-hmm. Everyone in the courtyard starts cheering. Even the head bitch in charge kind of smiles.
Complete change of emotion about the whole scenario.
In a half page, yeah. And then Cable thanks that military tablet guy. And the military tablet guy is like, thanks, my name's Trax. I'm guessing he's going to be in a future book. I'm guessing he's in a future book.
I'm a character whose name you get to know.
Yeah. And then they go home and have sex.
Yay!
I do have an epilogue. Okay.
I hope so. They're expecting.
What would you like to, what do you think is in the epilogue?
Well, I hope it's everything that Cable promised, which is that she's going to be, I don't know, the number
head
one
bitch in charge.
Mrs. Priest of the monastery. They got to give all the artifacts to the people. Well, he already did that though, right? That's why he left. Yeah. So that's already taken care of. Sorry. Forget the paperwork. Paperwork's done. Everybody comes and visits this church. It's full of people coming to visit and at least one of their children, if not more, since they seem to be really doing it a lot.
Well, the epilogue is just they're living their best life 3 years later. The monastery is being repaired slowly but surely. Okay. They've also they're not the only ones there anymore. They've got a lot of staff to help run the place.
Nice. Yeah, because they care now because they know where the origins of it are.
Yes.
So good.
They've also got 2 children, and Lorelai is very pregnant with their third.
Wow.
And she's like, I might want a break from being pregnant, but I also love his dick, and I love getting filled up with his semen.
Wow.
And the epilogue finishes with a very wonderful sex scene where she's very pregnant and she's like, I just get so horny at the end of my pregnancies. And then he points to her butthole and says, I'm in 2 moon cycles. I'm going to start pounding this. And she's like, oh, ha, ha, ha.
So romantic and devout.
And that's the end.
Wow, beautiful. Wow. Is the well? I was gonna ask if there. I was gonna ask a stupid question because I keep forgetting about the vow of silence. I was gonna ask if he's like that talks that raunchy when they're together, but he doesn't talk at all.
He does talk pretty raunchy now.
Now that they're
now he's fine. He's talking all the time now. She even says like he was describing something to their kids in like the garden, and she was like, I can't get over his voice, blah 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 blah. And I'm sure I would too if I had that Stockholm syndrome around a mute guy, right? Like, I mean,
when it's the only voice you hear.
Yeah. How do you feel now that we're done?
I thought that was a beautiful story of love and a magical multi-gods religion and
healing.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, diversity. We have a plus size woman. We also have a man with a prosthetic, which is pretty cool. Very sex positive.
Priest and a nun,
but not with the social constructs.
A different kind.
Yeah. What would you give the plot?
Okay, give it a 4. Don't let my yawn fool you. It was a roller coaster of stuff.
What would make it a 5 for you? I thought that was I'm giving it a 5. What would make it a 5?
You read it. I'm only going off of your description. I liked it. I mean, I don't seek out religious trauma in my books, I guess. So maybe it just kind of hit different.
Oh, interesting. I mean, like I didn't seek it out either. It's just the first book in a series.
And a high score.
I mean, like I don't know about you, but that's probably some of the most thorough plot that we've had in recent history.
The details are there. The receipts are receding.
I mean, there was like historical context and there was like political context. There was war crimes. Political crimes. Okay, Smut. I'm going to give it a 4 because as somebody who read it, I will confirm to you it was pretty smutty. I wanted to focus heavily on the plot. But as far as like actual sex goes, they did not do anything like out of the ordinary. I think I kind of described the most like intricate parts of like her using the, horns as a handlebar or like his forked tongue and them having sex on the altar, stuff like that.
Yeah. I'll give it a solid 3.5. I'm sure if I read it, maybe it would be higher, but since I didn't and I only have what you're giving me, I'm gonna give
fair.
it a 3.5.
No, that's fair. So will you take a look at the cover for me, please, and tell our audience what you see?
Well, let me tell the audience what I don't see, which is an alien priest of any kind.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's an aesthetically very beautiful and very purple book cover. Author of Monsters Love Curvy Girls, Michele Mills, all in various purples and light purples. A Monster Bite story. Her alien priest features a little purple, I assume that's a vial of ink, and a feathered quill that is also purple. Yeah. I assume for all the letters that they wrote each other.
Well, I think it would have to be referencing the fact that they transcribed texts together.
Yes, they did.
But like I was kind of like but I get that it's another religion, so I wouldn't put like a cross on here. But I think you could have done like an altar of some sort. I don't know. I just the quill and ink was not.
It's huge
reference.
It looks nice.
Yeah,
like it's not an ugly cover.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm giving it 2 just because it's not what I would think if I was picking it up.
I'm going to also give it a 2, and then I'm going to show you my drawings that I want you to rate mine.
Okay, hold on. Let me do my math. I am at a 73% and you are at a 63%. Will you hold it back a little bit further from the camera? Thank you. Okay, it is, yes, exactly what I asked for, which is a very stereotypical devil appearance.
This is a little more priest with the collar, but he's still
he's got a collar, but he's only got his loincloth on.
Oh, that's the bear from last time.
Yep. He is ripped. He is kind of skinny. I would think him to be a lot bulkier than that, but I do like it. I liked the collar.
I gave him a sort of a tiny Pope style hat with sort of a squiggly on it to suggest any kind of religion.
Yeah, that's fair. What is your say smut moment from the book?
I mean, the plot really accelerated in the last few pages. The whole lot of it was really, really pretty say smut with the kidnapping. I guess smelling pregnancy was pretty jarring.
I've had that in some other paranormal type books where they can smell when she's like her scent changes when she's pregnant or something. But yeah, it's a fun way to find out that you're a dad. I would also say, first of all, him having night vision to be able to find her, very nice.
And again, there was that part where I remembered and forgot he breathed fire. The dogs loved that.
Yeah, they're big fans. I would also say guy with the tablet who just was really on it for no reason whatsoever.
Characters for plot point convenience are some of my favorites.
Yeah. I will also say that the potato peeling, iconic.
Oh.
Iconic.
I was so nonplussed by the punishment after hearing it that I had almost forgotten about it, but it is horrible and torturous.
I know. They're public, like this head bitch in charge being so standoffish at first and then turning around and being like, you know what? Cute.
Love is beautiful.
Love is beautiful.
I ship it.
Also, I hope their parents were not invited to the wedding. Her parents, I mean, specifically.
Yeah, I wouldn't invite them personally.
Nah. Also, very coincidental that he found that compartment that one night that she was leaving.
Pretty good. Well, look, we could have, if the plot had been, we never found any artifacts, I'm just going to be quiet for the rest of a full year and then we'll revisit this. It wouldn't be as fun.
What if somebody else comes and snacks her up, you know?
It would be hard if they hadn't already fornicated.
But they hadn't at that point.
But
they hadn't had sex. When he found the cache of antiques, it was when she ran out into the night to go to that monastery.
I thought that was just that she had decided. She didn't get snatched though. She decided to leave that time.
No, I'm saying that he's worried that another person will mate with her.
Oh, I forgot about
that she'll get like snatched up by somebody else.
She's gonna get proposals on proposals.
Snatched. Can't say snatch when there's a real kidnapping in this book. I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. I like that the alien took a different form. It wasn't necessarily the aliens we think of. I also appreciated that, you know, they had some old school style stuff. It wasn't super futuristic. It was like, here is a loincloth and here is an aqueduct with a potty on it.
Over the potty chair, is that
the potty seat?
The potty seat,
which feels like you're training somebody like a child to use the bathroom.
For sure, sounds like some potty
like
training,
a squatty potty or something. Anyway, that is our book. Like we have said numerous times before, you can find us, if you so choose, on Instagram or TikTok at saysmutpodcast. Additionally, we'd love to hear your book recommendations. Send those our way via email at saysmutpodcast@gmail.com. And, you know, pop us a rating or a review on the podcast platform of your choosing. You know, maybe if you didn't love this one, go give another one a shot. Or you don't got to listen anymore. That's okay, too.
No one's forcing you.
We're not trying to take up your time.
Everyone knows the worst punishment is peeling potatoes anyway. You don't have to sit here and listen to a podcast
there are worse
you don't
things.
Like.
There are worse things to do than listening to us, like peeling potatoes.
Yeah.
With that said, you know, be confident in your sexuality. Communicate with your partners in whatever way you need to communicate with them.
Hey, every now and again, don't forget to touch the tail.
Yeah, touch a little tail and stay smutty. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.